Hello viewers, hoping that each of you is doing great. With all the enthusiasm and love for this industry, we bring you the first ever content video of our channel ESG and Sustainability. In this video, we will try to understand what is ESG, sustainability and the correlation between these two aspects. In today's world, we often get to hear the buzzword ESG. Many a times we get to hear ESG sustainability, ESG domain, ESG disclosure, ESG score, ESG ratings. After all, what is this ESG? Let us now try to understand what is ESG. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. So, understanding of these parameters with respect to an organization is all about ESG. ESG performance of an organization is said to be the non-financial performance of that organization in addition to the financial disclosure of that organization. In general, ESG performance of organizations is disclosed as CSR reports or sustainability performance reports. These reports outline the performance of organizations and it helps individuals, investors, and other stakeholders to understand the non-financial performance of the organization. Disclosure of this ESG reporting is mandatory for companies by some nations, and many more nations are going to join their hands. For example, in India, SEBI has mandated top 1,000 performing companies with respect to market capitalization has to publish their ESG disclosures from financial year 2023-2024. However, it is optional for these companies to publish these reports for the financial year 2022-2023. This ESG disclosure lets all the stakeholders understand about the non-financial performance of different organizations. From ESG disclosures, stakeholders get to understand about ESG emissions, energy management, water and waste treatment, roadmap for net zero, circular economy, employee welfare, stakeholder engagement, steps taken to achieve UN Sustainable Development Goals, board transparency, R&D, materiality analysis, risk management, code of ethics, and its implementations, etc. etc. Let us now understand what is sustainability. In general, sustainability is something which is uncountable or which lasts forever or which doesn't deplete by the usage, etc. Sustainability is the availability of something which fulfills current needs of our generations as well to fulfill the needs of future generations the way it fulfills current needs. You may now wonder what is sustainability with respect to ESG. Let us now understand this. Sustainability is avoidance of the depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance or meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now let us understand the definition given by United Nations for sustainable development. United Nations states that the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So with respect to ESG, sustainability is all about maintaining the resources which are available today in the very same way they will be available for the future generations. United Nations has defined three pillars as environmental, social, and corporate governance to achieve sustainable business development, which means that each business has to consider and integrate sustainable practices and these are to be implemented across all verticals of the business that caters the needs of current generations without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs with the same kind of quality as we are granted today. So, in order to have sustainable ESG, a business must work on these three aspects environmental, social, and corporate governance for the betterment of the future. In environmental vertical, organizations are required to limit their carbon equivalent emissions in order to achieve net zero and to limit overall temperature under 2 degrees Celsius rise as per Paris Agreement. Organizations have to work on water conservation and to protect water resources from the depletion. Organizations have to work on energy conservation as it is one of the key elements that stables GHG emissions. Biodiversity and natural conservation plays a vital role in achieving environmental sustainability for the organizations. Apart from this, waste management, circular economy, product stewardship, etc. are also some key areas that are needed to be concentrated by organizations in order to achieve environmental sustainability. Let us now discuss about societal sustainability. In this vertical, organizations are required to work for the welfare of their employees, eliminating child labor, integrating diversity and inclusion practices, prioritizing health and safety of their employees, training and development for their employees for the better career growth, working for creating a better society by valuing all stakeholders and engaging them in all key decisions of the business, spending for the welfare of underprivileged or indigenous people, working for achieving sustainable development goals, philanthropic contributions for local communities, etc. These kind of activities that are being practiced by organizations are adding value in bringing societal sustainable development. Let us now discuss about corporate governance, which mainly focuses on the good governance of the board. In this vertical, organizations are expected to have an ethical and ideal board structure that works in creating and framing code of ethics and a whistleblower system for tackling any kind of grievances. And organizations are also expected to have different committees that look after risk and opportunity, materiality of the business, R&D and innovation team, economic viability of the business, stringent policies for data privacy and cybersecurity, etc. Supply chain management is one of the core areas having implications in all three verticals: environmental, social, and corporate governance in achieving overall sustainability. Let us now understand the meaning of a few ESG buzzwords. ESG Fund. This is the portfolio of fund which is comprised and targeted towards investing in ESG related aspects. These are the funds whose asset allocation mostly includes shares and bonds of companies which are evaluated based on ESG factors. So, these are the funds which are invested in those organizations or portfolios which prioritize the performance of their ESG parameters. ESG investing. Investment made in those organizations which consider ESG factors in their operations. This can also be implied with sustainable investing. This is further segregated as impact investing, socially responsible investing, and ESG and value-based investing. Impact investing. This is the investment which brings in financial profitability alongside creating an environmental and social impact. Impact investing generally concentrates in choosing a business or an organization that works for the betterment of either society or to create a positive environmental impact. Socially responsible investing. The investment which is made in those organizations which are ethically good and works for the betterment of society. For example, not investing in companies which produce tobacco, alcohol, arms, etc. This investment involves in choosing, adding, or removing investments in organizations based on specific ethical guidelines. ESG investing or value-based investing. Investment in those organizations which consider and integrate ESG factors into their operations. So, this is the investment which is made in those companies which follow high quality environmental, social as well corporate governance standards. ESG Framework. Let us first understand what is a framework. A framework it is designed and developed by an individual body or a group of bodies based on some set standards and rules to understand, research, and analyze for a pre-decided goal or output. Let us now understand what is ESG framework. ESG framework is a standardized system designed and developed for disclosure of ESG metrics by different organizations from all industries. Very often, these frameworks are designed and developed by voluntary bodies. So, these frameworks let organizations to disclose their non-financial performance in a standardized format, which lets individuals and investors to evaluate and understand the performance of those organizations. Based on these systems, several organizations' performance is evaluated by rating companies depending on the materiality based on the industry classification. In this ESG world, widely used frameworks are GRI, SASB, JHG Protocol, CDP, TCFD, SBTI, EU Taxonomy, IPIECA, SFDR, IR, etc. ESG reporting. ESG reporting is the disclosure of ESG data of a company's performance during the given financial year. This report outlines the performance of an organization based on the kind of framework or combination of frameworks that the company has chosen for disclosing the ESG data. So, this ESG reporting mainly focuses on three key areas: environment, social, and corporate governance. Environmental vertical. This vertical details about GHG emissions, which is further segmented as Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. And energy consumption, in which we speak about type of fuels used, renewable energy generation and consumption, electricity generated and consumed, net consumption of total energy, etc. Waste management. In this section, we speak about hazardous and non-hazardous waste generated, recycled, sent to landfill, incinerated, etc. Water management. In this, we discuss about water withdrawn, used, consumed, recycled, etc. In addition to these topics, we also discuss about biodiversity and conservation, net zero goals, circular economy, product life cycle, environmental policies and certifications, etc. Social vertical details about ratio of male and female employees, full-time, part-time, contract, and permanent employee details, training and development that is being provided for the employees, fatalities, total recordable injury rate, lost time injury rate, process safety events which come under health and safety of organization, local community relations, philanthropic activities, stakeholder engagement, responsible labeling and marketing, working towards achieving sustainable development goals, etc. Corporate governance. In this vertical, board structure is one of the key elements. In board structure, we get to understand if the board is having one tier, two tier, or three tier board, number of independent directors that the board has, executive and non-executive directors count, board diversity and related policies, board mandates, board, board of directors experience, CEO to employee pay ratio, etc. In addition to topics such as tax strategy, code of ethics, risk and management, materiality assessment, etc. So, ESG reporting lets investors to decide if to invest in an organization, which in turn helps to avoid those organizations which may have greater risks due to their environmental or social performance or corporate governance practices. Let us now understand what is ESG score. ESG scores are those scores which are designed to measure an organization's relative E, S, and G performance with utmost transparency by using the data which is being disclosed by an organization. So, these scores are awarded to organizations by different rating agencies based on the performance of those organizations by giving priority to the material aspects of the organizations with respect to the industry classification that the rating agency follows. And majority of the rating agencies either use Global Industry Classification Standard or SASB Industry Classification, which is used to determine an organization to a particular specific economic sector or industry group. ESG rating. ESG rating is given to an organization based on E, S, and G scores awarded, and this gives the overview of non-financial performance of an organization. With ESG ratings, one can understand relative performance of an organization and can choose better ESG performing organization as per the requirement. And ESG rating awarded to an organization measures the organization's associated risks, risk management strategies, financial stability, community engagement, economic status, welfare of workforce, governance of board, environmental impact and mitigation actions taken, etc. Centralized ESG bodies. We have some internationally recognized organizations which define different ESG frameworks and authorized to be the central nodes for maintaining and managing ESG related activities. A few of them are GRI, Global Reporting Initiative, UNGC, United Nations Global Compact, UNPRI, United Nations Principles for Responsible Investment, TCFD, Task Force on Climate Related Financial Disclosure, CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project, UN SDG, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SASB, Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, SBTI, Science Based Targets Initiative, GICS, Global Industry Classification Standards, etc. ESG Industry Classification. As there are thousands of organizations in the market in different industries and segments, it is a very difficult task for the evaluators to evaluate the E, S, and G performance of those organizations. Hence, a few rating organizations have come forward to design a classification to decide industry allocation of each such organization. For example, MSCI and S&P Global have come together with industry classification methodology named GICS, which is Global Industry Classification Standard, and SASB has come up with its own industry classification consisting of 11 industries and 77 sub-industries, also called as sectors. So, based on the nature of the business, each organization is mapped to an industry and sub-industry, which simplifies the evaluation and comparison between two different organizations, which becomes easier for individuals, investors to choose their preferred portfolio or organizations. So all steps that are being practiced are to be practiced in ESG should be in line in delivering a sustainable living. This is possible only if individuals, organizations, investors, governments should work in coordination. In this video, we discussed about what is ESG, what is sustainability, and the correlation between these two, and how important ESG is in today's business world. In addition to this, we also discussed about a few ESG buzzwords. So, from this video, we understood that ESG is the key aspect in achieving sustainability and that ESG carries a lot of weightage in business domain considering the increasing interest of stakeholders such as individuals, investors, societies, NGOs, governments in ESG scores, ratings, and data. We thank you for watching this video. We request you to please leave the feedback in the comment section and let us know if you need a specific ESG topic to be addressed. We will try to make a video on that. In our next video, we will discuss about different ESG certifications and courses. Thank you so much. Bye bye.